Joining me tonight from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, is my good friend Eric Friesen, coming off the heels of a 4-3 Oilers win at MSG in a game that did not appear to be going very well for the Oilers. And I got to be honest, I was ready to say, yeah, it's not happening today. Trailing 3-0 going into the third against Igor Shesterkin. I did not like our chances, but Evan Bouchard found a way not to hit somebody's shin pads and put one top corner and then score another one. And Dylan Holloway gets his first goal of his NHL career. And all of a sudden it's a tie game. And late in the third, the Oilers get a power play, and Leon Draisaitl shockingly does what he's rarely does, score a power play goal. Just kidding. Welcome, Eric.
Hey, man, how's it going? I got to be honest. If you would have asked me maybe 5-6 hours ago of how this podcast was going to go tonight, I thought it would have had a quite a different tone than the one that we're about to have. So thankfully, the boys were able to pull it out with a huge come-from-behind road win to make it a little bit better of a show for us and probably an even better flight home for the team.
Yeah, I mean, they spent all week in the New York City kind of area, and, it wasn't looking good. Lose to Jersey, lose to the Islanders, and today you're trailing 3-0 going into the third and on the verge of dropping below 500, and doom and gloom, and fire the GM and fire the coach, and we need to make this trade 9-1-1, and all of a sudden the team shows up and kind of gets it done and kind of changes the paint job a little bit. How are you feeling about this season so far? I mean, I haven't really talked to you, I don't think, on air since preseason, really. So
right, it's only natural to sort of get down when things aren't going great. And I think that the expectations were set so high coming into this year. Sources outside of Edmonton, mainstream media calling the Oilers Stanley Cup contenders. And when you get that label after making it to the conference final, it's not just your local guys saying it. And of course, when you also have McDavid and Draisaitl in the prime of their careers, everyone expects that the Oilers should be, 15-6 right now instead of 11-10. But things have happened. They've had a rough start. They've played a lot of tough teams. They've beaten some good teams too. Let's not forget they've beaten Carolina, Tampa Bay, Florida. It's not like they've just gone away against all these good teams, even the Rangers today. But when you look at the record and they're only sitting one game over 500 around American Thanksgiving, which is always sort of viewed as this tipping point for the teams that are going to make the playoffs or not, there's going to be some frustration with the fan base. And I understand it, but anyone who follows me on Twitter knows I'm a very positive, optimistic guy. I'm always going to try to find the silver lining and look for the best positive outlook on anything Oilers related. But I don't get me wrong, I get the frustration. I take the losses as hard as anyone. But when they got down today, they really showed what this team is made of. It was a character win, coming back to beat a good team in their building when you're trailing by 3 goals in the third period. And I think the thing that makes me even more optimistic is that it wasn't McDavid and Draisaitl that were leading the charge. It was the third line that got them into the game. And of course, McDavid and Draisaitl on the power play orchestrated the final goal that sealed the deal. But I'm just happy to see that some unusual suspects were the ones chipping into that victory today. So just to sort of, as a long-winded answer to your question, I'm wishing the team was in a better spot than they are right now, but I think when they've had one of the hardest schedules in the league to start the season, we know that that's going to eventually catch up, and the Oilers are going to have a more favorable schedule down the stretch.
Yeah, I don't like to make excuses, but tough schedule, missing Evander Kane and Kyler Yamamoto not being really with them right now, and maybe not healthy basically all
You
season.
can call it an excuse if you want. I say it's a factor.
Yeah.
Go. Look, there might be teams in the league that have better depth than the Oilers, but take 2 top 6 wingers off any team in the league, and it's gonna play a factor in how they are. I mean, there are teams that can handle that sort of loss potentially better than Edmonton can, but it's still a huge hole for this team trying to replace them. Hopefully, we're going to get Yamamoto back soon, and he makes a difference. He's got good hands. He's a penalty killer. He can chip in some offense, but losing Evander Kane for half the season or possibly more than half the season, that's a much bigger hole to fill.
You have thoughts on using McDavid more on the penalty kill now and even starting penalty kills, like, that first defensive zone draw today? He's out there and he's working on the kill. What do you think?
Yeah, and earlier in McDavid's career, he did kill penalties a little bit, not very often, but they would put him out there in shorthanded situations. I'm thinking back to like 2017, 2018. You see him out there.
McClellan would use him and Draisaitl together to kill penalties, yeah.
Yeah, and he'd get the odd shorthanded goal. I can picture one against the San Jose Sharks, I think, late in the 2016-17 season, where he picked up the puck at center ice, deked in, and went backhand top shelf. But now that they're sort of in this position where they've got injuries to players who do kill penalties like Yamamoto, it gives McDavid a chance to try this out. I like it that it gives their penalty kill a different look. It sort of forces them to be more offensively focused to that, because as soon as McDavid gets a touch on the puck in the defensive zone, he's not thinking to just chip the puck down the ice and get it clear. He's going to try and catch them when they're pinching up and get an offensive chance the other way. We saw it today. There was a one-on-one chance where he rifled a shot that went wide of the net. But it gives them a different look. The only thing I'm worried about is that he already plays so many minutes as it is, and now you're adding this onto his plate where there's a lot more defensive responsibility. So I would probably prefer to not have him be a regular penalty killer if possible. I think you can do it on occasion or in the short term, but as like a full-time solution, I would say that I would probably be against having McDavid be a consistent penalty killer.
We got a comment here from YouTube. Handle Epiphany says it was a great comeback, but there are still outstanding issues. Yeah, no doubt about it. Like the first goal for the Rangers, I mean, full goal I thought was a little lackluster, getting to the point to potentially get a puck out there. Rangers keep it in, and then Broberg kind of loses Lafreniere in front of the net, and they kind of basically have a tap-in empty net goal there. So definitely some defensive zone issues are still rearing their ugly heads. Yeah, and it's a tough start to the season for Philip Broberg, his NHL season, I should say. He has been playing pretty well in the AHL after coming back from injury, but that's an area that this team really needs to clean up, is taking the man in front of the net. There's been way too many times where the Oilers let in a goal because they're not tying up the man in front. They're not able to outmuscle him, and it ends up in the back of their net. So that is an area where I think that they need to get harder to play against in front of the net and try and make it so they can clear the crease and make that save a little easier for Campbell to make. I don't put too much on him on that one. I mean, it was a nice move by Fox to kind of sneak in from the point, find an open man, and make a tape-to-tape pass. But, if you lift that stick at the right time, that kind of takes away the play. So, like I said, a tough start for the Oilers, but they were able to bounce back and obviously get the desired result today. Yeah. Oilers crack video review stuff at it again today. Jeremy Coupel. I mean, he wasn't one of the 3 stars tonight, but he probably should have been the 4th star of the game. Yeah, no, definitely earned his paycheck today.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the second one, yeah, you notice a little stick bump there, and it seems like, years past, I don't think we get that call, but we got it today.
Yeah, it's goaltender interference is something that
Yeah,
it's anyone's guess, right? Like I remember in the playoffs last year, the kick-in goal that Coleman had taken away from him.
yeah,
I thought it was going to count because rarely do the Oilers get that call.
right.
And also, like, just the situation of the game, are they going to take back a goal with 5 minutes left in the game in an elimination game for Calgary? I didn't see it happening. And then it went their way, and I said, wow, of all times, like, it still doesn't make up for the goal that should be disallowed.
The curse of Kessler was lifted.
Yeah, it doesn't fully make up for that because 5 years later, or over 5 years later now, I'm still frustrated about it. But it made up for it a little bit because the Oilers were that close to a conference final in 2017, and they did finally get there in 2022.
Yeah.
But it was one that I didn't expect to go our way, and it did. And then today, another one. It was light enough that I would say that if it would have counted, I would have understood. I still would have been, frustrated because I obviously don't want the Rangers to score in that situation or ever against the Oilers. But that would have been one time where I would have said, okay, I mean, it was very light contact. I could see why they allowed it. But, thankfully it was another one that went the Oilers' way, and they were able to get the regulation winner. We might be talking about an overtime right now.
Yeah, when they got that power play, I was watching it, I confess, at work, but when they got that power play, I kind of knew they were going to score there. It felt like they just totally took the momentum of that game and ran with it, which is funny because when the Rangers scored that goal to go up 3-0, like you, I'm pretty optimistic, but I tweeted out game, set, match. So after they won the game, I had to use the Fast and the Furious GIF of Too Soon Junior because I blew it. I thought the game was already over. So
your GIF game is strong as it is, but when you can throw in a fast reference, I love it. So nicely done there.
Yeah, some stranger on YouTube here says the way the second period went, I was sure the game was over after that.
Bouchard, I'm sure a lot of people were.
And then he says Bouchard really resurrected the game for the Oilers, and yeah, I mean he gave them some life with that goal.
Yeah, that was one where he needed to get out of a bit of a slump, and what a way to do it! 2 goals a few minutes apart to get his team back in it, and then even better, my apologies, Dylan Holloway scores his first career NHL goal. It was a nice one, too. Yeah. It's one that he'll never forget for a couple of reasons. Scored in the most famous arena in the world.
Yeah.
It was a nice goal, and it was a goal to tie the game that ultimately led to a big comeback for his team. So
he scored it on a Vezina Trophy winner. So if you don't believe that you can score on anybody now, that's got to be gone for him. So
when he's 70 years old and telling his grandkids in Bragg Creek, Alberta, about that one, he won't have to exaggerate at all about how great that was.
No, he will know. They can ask him how, and he can tell them.
Yeah. The other thing, though, like I'm sure that there have been some players over the years that have exaggerated their first NHL goal, but with the invention of YouTube now, it kind of makes it harder for you to sort of overinflate your first goal because the kids and the grandkids will be able to quickly look that up and see some video evidence of it.
They have all the receipts, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. So wanted to. It seems to be a thing going around on 1260 and 630 Ched. They both did it on the same day, like Stauffer and Brendan Escott, and then Jason Greger and Strudwick and Connor Halley, or Shog, whatever. They give out player grades for the quarter season mark. So I wanted to do that with you.
Okay.
And I'll let you go first, and then I'll give them my grades. But what do you got for Leon Draisaitl?
Oh, that's an A+. That's about as easy of an A+ as I could give. I mean, he's right there with McDavid as one of the top scorers in the league. I don't even have to think about that one.
I'm actually going to give Leon an A- because I think he's got a little bit more he can give, which is high praise for him because he's been given a lot. Warren Fogle.
Oh. He's had some better moments as of late. I think back to that road trip where he scored 2 goals in 3 games. So that was a better one. I would say probably still I feel bad saying a D for him, but I mean I probably got to go with maybe a D+.
Okay, I can't be failing Warren Fogle. I think he's not maximizing his potential right now, but I think he's playing okay. So I'll give Warren Fogle just a straight C.
Okay.
Dylan Hollywood Holloway.
I guess the other thing is we have to think about like expectations. Depending on a player, like this is skipping ahead. Someone like Devin Shore, who plays on the 4th line, right? I mean, what would an A look like for him? If he had 3 goals at this point through 21 games, would we call that an A?
I think because if he's putting some points on the board and not a liability out there, then yeah, I think you look at the player's actual potential. Yeah. And if they're maximizing that, then flying colors. If not, then yeah.
Like if Chris Russell was still on the team, I mean, how would we mark an A for him if he had 0 goals and 2 assists at this point? You might say, well, then
you look at his defensive play, and if he's a rock star defensively, then that's an A+. Yeah.
Okay. So for Dylan Holloway, I'll give him a D, and part of that is because he plays so little on most nights that it's hard to get a full grade. But I think because he's playing so little, it sort of shows that he's not ready for primetime action yet. And today he had a primetime moment, but you'd like to see it a little more. So I'll go D for Holloway.
Yeah, I just have a straight C for him.
Okay.
I don't think he's failing, but I don't think he's knocking it out of the park. I think he's kind of held back a little bit by the minutes he's getting, and
yeah.
Zach Hyman.
Zach Hyman, is he still over a point per game? I think he might have dropped below, but I just want to look that up for a second because I'm very impressed with his start. Okay, so he has dropped low. He has 19 points in 21 games. I mean, to me, that's an A-. Yeah, to have a guy who's making $5.1 million and he's giving you point per game offense off to one of the best starts of his NHL career, I think that's a pretty easy one to keep in the A's for sure.
I'll give him a B+. I think he's just below acing it. You know, to me, when you're getting A's, you're acing your job, and I think he's just under that.
Okay.
Matthias Janmark.
It's a very small sample size, right?
Yep.
He's got 1 point in 7 games, but he has played some time on the top line.
Yep.
So, I don't know. He's a decent utility player. He can move up and down the lineup when you need him to. I'll say D. Like he's had some good games. It wasn't that long ago where he was the Oilers' best forward one night, which is kind of an indictment of the rest of how the team was playing that game. But I'll say a D for him so far, and sort of similar to Holloway. That's just because he hasn't been around or played enough.
Yeah, I'm just gonna give him a straight C. Yeah, and I've got Evander Kane here, but I don't think I even really want to do him just because he's out, and it's been a while since we've seen him, so I don't think that's.
If I had to give a grade to him, though, it would be another A- because he has 13 points in 14 games. He's right there with Zach Hyman in terms of their point per game pace. So, it wasn't too long ago the Oilers had 5 players who were all over a point per game: McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, Hyman, and Kane. So when you can get that kind of offense up front, everything was looking pretty smooth until Kane went down. So I know you're not going to rank him, but it would be an unofficial A- for me.
Well, I wrote it down, and since you went there, I'll give him a B+. I think we could have saw a little bit more from him than what we were,
Okay.
But still a highly effective player for sure.
Yeah.
Klim Kostin.
That's another one where it's, sort of similar to Janmark. He came up at the same time, right when Kane went down. Doesn't have a point yet with the Oilers, but he's had some good moments on the forecheck, and he's had some big hits. It's hard to give more than a D- to a guy with 0 points in 6 games, so I'll go D-.
Yeah, for me, he's a C-.
Okay.
Brad Malone.
4 games played, no points. But once again, like we talked about, different standards for different players.
Yeah.
So, for him, you're not expecting a lot of points, but
No.
I remember him having some good moments when he was up here. I don't know. I'll say a C-, I guess.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's he's not doing things that are really hurting, and he's not doing things that are really helping. So
Yeah.
yeah. The number 97.
Let's see. He's on pace for. I'm just going to do a little update because I can't do this math in my head. 36 divided by 21 times 82. It's on pace for 141 points. Only 9 players in NHL history have ever had 140 points or more in a season. I think we'll call that a pretty easy A+.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think we can ask much more of our captain right now, despite what Stan in New York thinks. Mick Selfish, is torching the league again. So.
Well, he got trending on Twitter today, so I mean, good for him at 89 years old. Doing something enough that got the crowd that riled up.
Yeah.
Not a Stan Fischler fan, I will say.
No.
Do you remember 2 summers ago? Sorry, this is just off track a little bit.
It's all right.
They were doing some sort of Islanders tribute video, or I can't remember what exactly it was for, but they were talking about the Islanders dynasty and comparing it to other dynasties, and he said that the Oilers weren't a dynasty because they didn't win. He said they can't technically be called a dynasty because they didn't win 3 straight cups.
Yeah.
But the last time I checked, 5-7 is more than 4-4.
Yeah. No.
So, I mean,
no. You
look,
don't.
if you
dominate. You dominate a decade. You can hold the dynasty mantle. Yeah. No.
in a span of 10 seasons between 1982-83 and 1991-92, 10 years, they made the conference final 8 times.
Yeah.
They made the Stanley Cup final 6 times, winning 5 of them.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty clear-cut dynasty.
Going back-to-back, 3-peating, 4-peating, 5-peating, 6-peating, I mean, that's all incredible, but dominating a decade in my books is that's a dynasty.
Yeah, and honestly, if not, and this isn't a chance to take a shot at Steve Smith or anything, but I mean, if that goal doesn't happen in '86 and the Oilers go on to win the cup that year, we're talking about 5 straight Stanley Cups, and not only would that tie the record set by the Habs in the late '50s and early '60s, they did it where you only played 2 rounds. And the Oilers would have won 5 straight cups where they played 4 rounds. So we're talking about
yeah.
That I think at that point you would have called them without a doubt the greatest dynasty in hockey history.
And
there's debate about which is, like, some will say the late '70s Habs, some will say the late '50s Habs, the early '80s Islanders, the late '80s Oilers, mid '80s Oilers. But
right.
It's up for debate. But I think Fischler was kind of out to lunch on that tape.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
but he's been a notorious Oilers hater. Like he always was even critical of Gretzky, even back in the '80s. So,
yeah. Ryan McLeod.
Ryan McLeod. I've been pretty impressed with Ryan McLeod. He can play wing. He can play center. I think if the Oilers are able to trade for a third-line center during the season, he could, be permanently on the wing for the rest of the year. 8 points in 21 games. Not super impressive, but like I said, if we're adjusting for expectations for the player, that works out to probably like a 35-ish point season. And I think that's a pretty good step forward for him. So I'll go with a C+ so far.
Yeah, I'm going to give him a C because I think he's got a lot more to that he can give. I don't think he's been bad, but I just think there's more there. Now this one's going to be a tough one. Jesse Puljujarvi.
I've been a fan of the kid since they drafted him in 2016, and I've always wanted him to do well. When he came back for his second tour of duty, still his first under contract, but second time with the team after the break, he started to show more offensively, and this year it's kind of been a bit of a step back. I thought that he was playing with a lot of confidence today, which I like to see. You would hope that a guy who's playing with McDavid a lot, and today with McDavid and Draisaitl, would have more than 5 points in 21 games. But I know that when he's on the ice, usually the puck metrics are pretty good in the Oilers' favor, even if he isn't getting his name on the score sheet. I'll go with a C+ at the moment.
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a C-. I think he's in the right spots, but at some point as a forward, you've got to start cashing or distributing and making more happen than just keeping the puck in the other end.
We see Connor, and when you're playing with him, you always have to have your stick on the ice because at any moment he can get the puck to you. And it's sometimes a little frustrating when you think McDavid might have 5 more points this season at this point if some of those chances on those beautiful passes he's making were buried. And even today, Connor had a good look from behind the net, found Jesse in the slot. Jesse just didn't get it high enough, and one of the best goalies in the world, Shesterkin, takes it away from him. But it's those kind of chances that you'd like to see converted a little more often.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering now too. Like you say, he was out there, several shifts with Leon and Connor, and
until Hyman kind of replaced him.
Yeah, and getting good quality chances, and it not going his way. Like I give him credit for keeping on shooting the puck and not trying to defer and all of that, but at some point, you wonder if it's going to get in his head, and then his confidence is just going to go even lower, and it's at a it's got to be at a fairly low spot already. So that's something that
I thought he was playing with a lot of confidence today. It was probably when skating with the puck. It's one of the best times I thought he's looked all season.
Yeah, I just worry. Like, I almost think that he's better suited on that third line where there's not quite as much pressure to put up the points. So maybe it can just kind of happen organically.
Well, the other thing I think of is like, okay, Yamamoto, when he comes back, he's going to be in that spot. When Evander Kane's healthy, that kind of shifts Puljujarvi down the lineup too.
Right.
What about a guy like Xavier Bourgault? I mean, he was drafted in the first round. He's a pure sniper. He's he's got a little bit of grit, and he can kill penalties too. And I look at this guy and I'm like, well, if he's a natural goal scorer, eventually in the next year or so, he's going to find his way onto this team, and he's probably going to get a chance to play with either McDavid or Draisaitl.
Yeah.
And if he lands there and becomes a consistent 20-goal scorer and maybe 30-goal scorer if he reaches his full potential, we're talking about a guy who is going to push everyone down even further. So if you got Yamamoto, who you intend on being part of this team long term, and you've got Bourgault, who you think is going to be on this team long term, well, those are your two top six right wingers right there. So there really won't be much of an opportunity for Jesse to play higher in the lineup than that in case someone gets hurt, unless someone gets hurt, I should say.
Yeah, you almost need to start proving yourself. Well, you do need to. I mean, it's every day in the NHL, but you need to prove it now and solidify a spot.
That's the way that I see it going myself, man. Like, I love Jesse, but he might have to redefine himself. I mean, look at Andrew Cogliano.
Right.
When he was in Edmonton, he started off with a very solid rookie season. I think he had 45 points in 07-08. And the offense sort of just slowly decreased from there. And he didn't want to accept a role as a bottom six guy. He saw himself as a top six player. But once he got to Anaheim, and they sort of shifted his mindset to, this is where you're going to be effective, this is where you're going to thrive, he ended up having like a pretty solid, better part of a decade playing there, and ultimately moved on to Colorado and won a Stanley Cup there. And it's kind of frustrating to me that he scored a big playoff goal against the Oilers in 2017 and then another one against the Oilers in 2022, when this is a guy that they drafted in the first round in 2005. So you'd hate to see Puljujarvi get moved on and come back to burn us down the road when people are saying, oh, he could be the next Nichushkin. But I think that those are more rare situations. It's Dallas probably should have held on to Nichushkin and given him more time to develop. But I would say that it's more unlikely than likely that he'll turn into that type of a player. But I mean, I'm always going to hope for him and hope that he ends up thriving in Edmonton.
Nuge,
once again, 22 points in 21 games. He's on pace for the best season of his career. I mean, that's an A for me. I'm not even going to attach a minus to it. That's just a straight up A.
Yeah, I'll give Nuge a B+. I think he's still got another level he can get to, I hope. I don't know. I'm not handing out the A's like candy just because of our record. I think like if our record was different, then maybe I'd be a little bit more complimentary with him. Derek Ryan.
Yeah, and that was a guy that we kind of talked about too. I mean, 2 goals in 20 games, sort of what you would be expecting from a fourth-line player. I gotta think about this one for a second because, like, if we're lowering expectations for him,
while you're thinking about it, I'm just gonna give him a straight C.
Okay.
And the only reason I wouldn't be higher than that is because I think there's games where he's almost like sleepwalking. It doesn't seem
Yeah,
like much of a factor. That's okay if you're a defenseman to go unnoticed, but
I
I don't like that
I
as a
thought he
forward.
played. Yeah, but I thought he played a lot better late last season after Woodcroft took over.
He did. He came on.
So for me, I guess I'll go with uh, I'll go with a C minus for him,
Okay.
and that might even be a tad too high. But when you got a fourth liner who's chipped in 2 goals so far, that's probably about what you're expecting from him. So I'll keep him in the C's.
Devon Shore.
Devon Shore, he's struggling. He's struggling to get much done right now. But one assist in 16 games. I don't want to outright call it a fail, but I'd probably have to go with like a D minus.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind more there. I think that's kind of the lowest spot probably in the lineup he takes up, but Tyler Benson, just about anybody from the farm can give you the same. Brad Malone, yeah.
And just a little update, I'm seeing on Twitter that Tyler Benson and James Hamblin didn't dress for the Condors tonight. So I'm wondering if both of them are on their way to Edmonton.
Yeah, I could see him.
It was a conditioning stint. We knew Benson was coming back up anyway.
I could see him being in the lineup on Monday.
Yeah, and James Hamblin is a guy that I would really like to give a look to. He played 1 game against Seattle last year, and I thought that he looked pretty good. And let's not forget about how noticeable he was in the rookie tournament in Penticton, as well as in a couple preseason games. So I would think that when you got a 23-year-old kid here, undrafted, he's worked his way up and earned an NHL contract. And this is a guy that's hungry. And when you have a team of bottom 6 players that aren't necessarily performing up to expectations, you're kind of almost forced to give a look to someone who is playing well in the minors. Like, that's like you reward your players and show, like, if you play well, you're going to get an opportunity.
Yep.
And this is a guy who I think is going to come up and be really motivated. And I am interested to see what he can do if he gets into a couple games.
Last forward on the list is Kyler Yamamoto.
Oh, boy. And Yamamo's another guy I'm a big fan of, but just no goals so far. 3 assists in 13 games. Man, he's struggling mightily. I probably have to go with a D minus there too, and I hate to do that.
You're a little harder than me. I'll give him the same grade as Puljujärvi. I think it's a C minus. D to me means you're failing, and maybe for Yamamoto and Puljujärvi, it is a little bit. It is a little bit of that, but
well, I didn't give out any Fs, so I'm not officially failing anyone. I mean, a D minus is like in the 50s, so I'm still saying he passes.
Yeah,
but
I just
there's games where he doesn't get a shot on goal. We know what it looks like when he's on top of his game. Like,
yeah.
He can really be effective with his feistiness and his forward checking and his quick hands in tight spaces. We haven't seen it as much this year. I still believe it's there, and hopefully when he gets back, we'll see a little more of that.
I want to think that the medical staff is not letting a player dress if they're dealing with concussion symptoms for the whole season. So I don't think I'm really willing to let my brain concede to the fact that he might have been dealing with a concussion all season. So I'm just going to judge the body of work that he put out there under the lens that he was a healthy, able-bodied hockey player, and to me it just wasn't where it needs to be. Is how I approach that. Maybe there was concussion stuff that he was dealing with, but I don't know. I'm just gonna judge it as if it wasn't, so I'm not giving him a pass on it.
Yeah.
I expect more from him, and hopefully when he comes back, he's healthy and there is no cloud of doubt hanging over him, and he starts to contribute.
For sure.
And the one thing I don't like about our fandom is it we pit guys against each other. It's Barry or Bouchard, it's Pugliarvi or Yamamoto. I think back to the podcast I had with Bloke Franklin from Australia there, and he talked about how we did do that with goalies and the Smith Koskinen stuff and all that, and made me start to think about these are human beings at the end of the day, and we should start to try to treat them with some respect. And
it's hard with fans sometimes because as much as we love these guys, and I don't want to like tell anyone how to be a fan or not, but I mean, like, I'm a positive guy, and I think sometimes when you watch these guys for so long, you grow an attachment to them and you want to see them succeed. But sometimes there's just players that some guys don't like either. And I mean, I'm not like that. If you put on the Oilers crest, I'm a pretty big fan. So
I'll root for you.
It's just it's a tough situation.
So the forward list is a lot longer than anything else. So we'll go to D now. Tyson Barrie.
Tyson Barrie. Well, he is currently, I believe, 6th on the team in scoring, very quickly soon going to pass Evander Kane. 12 points in 21 games. Which puts him on pace for another 40-point season. It would be his 3rd straight 40-point season with the Oilers. It hasn't been done for a while. But, you look at what a defenseman's number one job is, even if he isn't seen as like a defensive stalwart, -2 on the year. I would probably... I don't know. I'll give him a C+ right now.
Yeah, to me, he's a B. For what you expect of Tyson Barrie, I think he's kind of delivering. I don't think he's been the big.
The more you talk about it, I'm almost leaning towards upgrading it to a B- because like he's had some good moments offensively, but like there's always the little defensively. Yeah, change it to a B- for me. I'm talking myself into it.
Okay. Old man Bush.
Oh boy, I mean, with how he played today, that had to bump him up at least a bit. He was he's been in a bit of a slump in the last handful of games. I thought he started the season pretty well, but he's kind of dropped a little bit down here. But he totally excuse me. To borrow a term from Dumb and Dumber, he totally redeemed himself today. So sort of butchered that joke, but that's okay. I'm very impressed with how he kind of was able to burst out of that offensive slump, and let's hope that his defensive slump kind of doesn't carry over. Did you hear Paul Coffey talking about it between periods today?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So I think Paul believes in him too, but the one thing he said is, as long as Bouchard is reasonable defensively, like decent, that's what you can expect from him. However, you want him to be the one giving those tape-to-tape stretch passes to McDavid and Draisaitl in full flight, and that's what he has the ability to do, and that's what I hope that we're going to see from him more consistently going forward here.
So what's your grade?
What's that?
So what's your grade?
Oh, my grade. Sorry. Let's go with. I'll go C+. I'll go C+.
Okay. I'm gonna give him a C. I think he was down in the doldrums, and today kind of started to work his way to busting out of it.
Okay.
But I think it's been a bit of a struggle for him this year. Cody Ceci.
Maybe the Oilers' best all-around defenseman so far this year. Last year I would say he exceeded expectations, and he had a career high in points while also playing solid defensively. And I think he's kind of picked up right there again. Like his points are a bit lower than they were a year ago. Well, at least his pace anyway. But defensively, I think he's held up. He's +7. I think he's leading the team. He is. So I think for what we expect from him, I'll go B-.
Okay, I will do the same there. Now, Brett Kulak.
Brett Kulak, yeah, he came in and was an important piece for the Oilers down the stretch. This year, it hasn't been as great of a start. What's his numbers look like right now? I'm just going to take a quick peek again. Not that he's a guy that you expect a lot of offense from, but I think he was on a 36-point pace with the Oilers last season after the trade. 3 assists in 21 games. Okay. So, yeah, not contributing a ton on the score sheet, but, there's been times where he's had some lapses. Twice this season he's fell down while skating backwards and allowed an offensive player to skate around him and go in on a good scoring chance. So never like to see that. I'll go with a C- right now.
Yeah, this makes for a bad podcast, but I'm with you. It's been a bit disappointing for him.
I don't think it has to be a bad. I mean, what do they want us to just have a huge argument with each other and tear each other's head off?
That's how me and Dash gain success, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's go to Nurse.
Dash, even when I first had him on my podcast, he was throwing a few chirps your way, and he's like, check out my location on my Twitter bio if you ever can get a chance. And of course I immediately looked. So you guys have a great thing going there, kind of tearing into each other.
Darnell
Nurse. Let's see. He's a lightning rod for criticism in Edmonton, and it's unfortunate because I really think he is a solid defenseman. Whenever you see like Team Canada forecasts for future World Cup of Hockeys or the Olympics, Nurse is always one of the guys who's like in the mix. You see it, and not even from Edmonton sources. So I think that there is some acknowledgement of what he brings. Like, he's one of the better skating defensemen in the league. He can pinch in at times and create an offensive look in the offensive zone. His passing, it's not his greatest skill, but every once in a while he makes a good pass. Like he set up Draisaitl for a goal against Vegas a week ago, and that was a big one. I think that every once in a while they'll say he gets lost in the defensive zone, and I still think he's a physical presence in the back end. When he's on top of his game, he's a very effective defender. But there are times where he does have a rough night, and everyone points to his cap hit and kind of crushes the guy about it. And I think that we just have to grade players on how they're playing and maybe not look at the cap hit as much. And of course, as the salary cap goes up over the next few years, every cap hit becomes more manageable. But I know that a lot of people say he'll never live up to his contract, and who knows if he will or not, but I'm a fan of the guy regardless. I think he does bring something to this team, and imagine if he got hurt. That would be a huge hole to fill. So for anyone who doesn't think that Darnell Nurse is an important part of this team, I can tell you the Oilers would be even in more of a world of hurt than the Evander Kane situation if they lost Nurse. So I will say for him, We'll go with we'll go with we'll go with a B minus right now.
Man. I feel the same way. Like I you talk about Cody Ceci having a good year, but in my mind, Cody Ceci probably isn't an ideal number 2 defenseman. He'd probably be best served a little bit further down the lineup, and I think it hinders Nurse a little bit. Like I think, I think Nurse thrives when he plays more with a little bit better of a puck moving defenseman. Then that frees up his ability to wheel, and the guy definitely can wheel. I think him and Cale Makar probably stand alone for the best skating defenseman in the NHL. So yeah, I think he's got more he can give. I think at some nights I question whether or not like he's afraid of taking a penalty and playing too aggressive. Because that's what I'd like to see out of him, kind of a little bit more of the Pronger-esque, mean nastiness, or even Duncan Keith from last year with the kind of the stick work and the being really, really physical in the corners. But for a while we couldn't kill a penalty, so I don't really blame him for being a little bit more bashful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ryan Murray.
I remember he made such a nice dangle, I think, in the first or second game.
It was early in the season, yeah.
Yeah. I think he almost deserves like a passing grade just for that, because I haven't seen a defenseman make a move like that in years on the Oilers' blue line and go between the legs and try to go backhand. Look, he was brought in to be a number 7 or a number 8, and because Philip Broberg didn't make the team out of camp, he was kind of thrust into being sort of a regular in the lineup. He's not wowing anyone out there, that's for sure. Pretty marginal player at this point. I'll go with a D minus for him.
Okay, I will give him a C minus, kind of on the same thought train as you, but I don't expect a lot from that spot in the lineup. Marcus Niemelainen.
Can throw the body, and he gives the Oilers a different element on the back end that they don't have with anyone else. I will say give him give the guy a D plus.
Yeah, I'm gonna just give him a C. I think he's just kind of ho-hum average this season. I haven't seen like the big annihilation kind of hits that he was doling out last year. Maybe he's afraid of getting exposed defensively. I'm not sure, but just doesn't seem like he's got that same nastiness this time around. And I think we kind of grew to expect that from him. So maybe it's a little bit of a letdown that we're not seeing like the resurrection of Brian Marchment, because that's really who he reminded me of a lot last year with the kind of hits that he was displaying, either Brian Marchment or Gator. Yeah. So that takes, I guess if you want to do Broberg, we can. I feel it's kind of a lot like Kane and Yamamoto, where we haven't seen much, but.
Yeah, it's almost like it's hard to give a grade on one game. I think that he's been playing well in the minors, and hopefully that'll keep up here. I'll say that.
Yeah, to me, he's a C player right now, but it's just we haven't seen much.
Yeah.
Now we'll go to goalies. We'll start out with Stuart Skinner.
Oh, I mean, the record isn't as good as the numbers, but I mean, like, wow, when you look at the individual numbers, if he would have got a little more goal support in the games he's played, he'd be even better. I'm going to give him a B plus right now. I mean, and that's probably even on the low side because of how strong his numbers have been.
Yeah, for me, it's an A minus.
Yeah.
And then Jack Campbell.
Jack Campbell, he still has a winning record, but the we're giving up 3 goals too often when he's between the pipes, and I believe he's going to turn it around. But as for the moment, I would say probably is more like a C minus.
Yeah, I'm going D minus there. To me, he's kind of, well, not kind of. To me, he's the most disappointing player on the team. From kind of your expectation of having a steady kind of starting goalie. I think he's a long ways from that, and it doesn't mean I think he's garbage or shit. I don't think he's found his game yet, and I'm hoping he does. But to me, so far, it's been disappointing more often than not. So
yeah, we definitely have to see him kind of find his game. And he even pointed out how poor he'd been playing after the Dallas loss, and then he bounced back with a huge win in Tampa. So I mean, hopefully that'll be something that we'll see more from him. Where he's able to find his game and start putting together some better starts on a consistent basis.
We'll take it to coaching and GM next, and then we're kind of done that, and then we'll say a few words and wrap, I guess, because this report card is taking a while to get through, but that's okay. Jay Woodcroft.
Jay Woodcroft, I think that he's coming with the same philosophies that he brought last season, and not as many good results so far as you would have liked, but I think just sticking with what he's instilled with this team, they've got the right coach in place, and I'm just thinking they made the right decision bringing this guy in when they did last year, because I think he'd be coaching in the NHL in another organization if they didn't. So this is the guy who's going to lead this team forward. So I mean, do we grade him off what his record is right now? I mean, I guess because he's only one game over 500, I'll go with a B. But I think he's a really good, young, smart coach.
I agree with everything you said, but this is a results-based business, so I'm gonna give him a C.
Okay.
I don't think I can elevate to beyond that. Being just one game above 500, I think you need to get it done at the end of the day, and it's not really there. But I feel like there's ebbs and flows to a season, and we're due for a little bit of a streak here, so hopefully that comes soon. Ken Holland.
Look, I know a lot of people like to crap on Ken Holland, or they blame him for where the Oilers are at, or for not addressing the defensive woes in the offseason. Look, I'm not the type of guy who likes to crap on the management every time there's a loss, or point out, why didn't you do this, why didn't you do that? Joe Sakic would have brought this guy in, Steve Eisner, why aren't you able to make that move? I think that people forget how Ken Holland has turned this team around. Think about where they were in 2019. They've never missed the playoffs since he was at the helm. They've had some excellent records and regular season records. They made it to the conference final last year, but you lose a couple of games where they see some weaknesses in the lineup, and he takes a lot of flack. And maybe that's just the lot in life for a GM in any pro sport league. But I mean, I guess if you want to say what has he done to address the team, well, Klim Kostin's his only move so far this season, other than bringing guys up from the minors. So I don't know if I'm not going to fail Ken Holland based on one quarter of the season for not bringing in a huge upgrade to this team. So I mean, I guess I'll go with a C minus so far.
Yeah, I'm at a C. He can't really do a lot right now with their salary cap situation.
Well, that's it.
I
They
know.
have 5 million
Yeah.
base with Kane, but as soon as he comes back, Now if you have me on to do a podcast at the 3/4 mark of the season, and let's say that he's traded for a guy like Jacob Chikrin or Jonathan Taves, now we're going to have a different conversation. I'm sure that another defenseman's coming in at some point. And is this the year that, they go all in and try to acquire a forward too that can really help push this team? I think it depends on how they play over the next 3 months, and they have to do it. This group internally has to put themselves in a situation where they can be buyers at the deadline and where they can give Ken Holland reason to give this team every chance they can to succeed in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of staying in contention until the deadline. Like, I don't think you're going to see any miracle Kucherov moves here because, you listen to Jason Gregor and he says, as soon as Kane's healthy, he's not going to be sitting out anymore. He wants to get back in there and he will demand to be on the ice. So, if he's healthy and ready to go at the beginning of March, he's not going to sit for a month not playing and then play for the playoffs. As soon as he's ready, he will be back on the ice. So, you can't really use the money and go and spend it on something else. So really, if they're going to make a deal, I don't see anything major happening until the actual trade deadline. And then you might see a little bit of a move there to solidify the defense. All kinds of talk about bringing in another forward. If it's on the cheap, yeah, I could see that. If it's a cheap kind of strong guy that adds a little muscle into the lineup, yeah, that could happen.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I really don't know how many games where you actually get really bullied in the NHL happen anymore. I think they're few and far between. So I don't know if chasing that, Stauffer puts a lot of stock into that, but I don't know if chasing that, solves their woes or not. They need to defend better, and I don't know if adding a some muscle in their lineup helps them defend and track and have better coverage. I don't. It might make them feel a little bit bigger, but I don't know if that changes how they defend. And to me, that's their biggest area of concern for me right now.
I think that they do have good defensive teachers in place with Woodcroft and Manson, but it's the execution right now. The guys have to come out, not just the defensemen, but the team defense. They have to be committed to the plan and execute the plan that's put in place for them.
Yeah.
So if they can get that on track, I think that they can at least be an average team defensively, and I think that they have the weapons to be an elite team offensively.
Yeah.
So if you're scoring enough goals and keeping it to under 3 a night. Like, if the Oilers can only allow 2 goals a night, they should be able to win a lot of hockey games. But it's those nights when they give up 3 or 4 that you really are pushed to the brink, where you have to, give everything you have just to maybe force it to overtime. Because let's face it, scoring is up around the league, but it's still kind of considered a 3-2 league.
Right. Yeah, and having to score 5 and 6 a night is it's taxing.
It's also on McDavid and Draisaitl too.
It's taxing over an 82-game season. Yeah, I mean, it's not a sprint; it's a marathon. So being able to defend, is key.
Yep.
I thank you so much for coming on, and you've got this new look where I feel like I'm talking to Bodie from Point Break, but and I guess that's. I'm
11 months in.
I guess that's fitting for just coming back from Mexico, and
yeah.
I don't know if you went surfing or fishing or what you did there, but I think you had a good time regardless.
A lot of sitting by the pool and sitting by the ocean, but man, it was a great time. The tan is still here. Hopefully, it'll last for a little bit, but yeah. I look a little different than the picture you tweeted out of me earlier today. I mean, in fairness, that picture was taken 11 years ago. So that I look probably a bit younger there, although a lot of people will say I look young for my age. But yeah, the hair's going strong. It'll be here for at least the full hockey season, and then we'll reevaluate in the summer.
Anything you want to promote, sir?
Oh, well, I mean, just not only for my own stuff, but everyone, please go read all our writers at the Heavy Hockey Network. We just brought in a new guy, Raghu Sharma, who's been a guest on my show. I know you had him on your show recently too. So yeah, it's go read all of our stuff. Ryan Lotsberg. You can follow me on Twitter. I know it says my handle right below my name, Eric J. Friesen. And I should have a new podcast up next week. I've been trying to find a time, and just, you know, I'm due to get one out because I was planning to fit one in before I went on vacation, and it just didn't line up right. So, although that would have been a fun time to do it. One, just maybe like
Right
sitting
the
at
beach,
the
yeah. I should have had
sitting
you
at
on.
or maybe just right at the pool bar, the swim up bar in the pool. Just kind of that might have been a good spot to do one too, with Pitbull music playing in the background all day.
A little cervezas and Connor McDavid talk. It would have been wonderful, yeah.
Exactly. So no, everyone, just please go. Read all our stuff. You know, I think we're putting out some really good articles at heavyhockey.com, and you know, you can follow my podcast Twitter as well at 99foreverpod. Like I said, I'll try to have a new episode out next week. And you've been a guest on my show 3 times now, I believe. Actually, make that 4 times, I think. So you've been one of my most consistent guests, and yeah, we'll have to do another one on 99 Forever soon too.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. I think we've done enough damage tonight. I've got a special song I'm gonna play that's probably get us in trouble a little bit, but that's okay. It's a good way to close us out. So thanks everybody for watching. Like and subscribe to Heavy Hockey, and yeah, thanks a lot for coming on, Eric. And keep your sticks on the ice. Keep reaching for the stars. And I'll close this off with a song about Eric's podcast. I'm pretty sure they wrote it for him. Oh, I have to hit play. Well, it'll be just a second. I got commercials. YouTube is not my friend. And I don't know if you've ever seen, like, when this song comes on, there's a Gretzky video for it too. You ever heard this song?
Is this by Toto?
Yeah.
I have seen the Gretzky highlight video on YouTube.
Yeah.
It might have to become my official theme song.
Yeah, man. If you got to write Toto for the rights to it. Well,
There
hopefully,
you go. I think I can play up to like 15 seconds or something before I have to pay copyright. So
yeah. Hopefully Hubero isn't watching. He'll get mad at me. Anyway, thanks for coming on again, and thanks everybody for watching. Epiphany, Some Stranger on YouTube. You guys are the real deal. Good night, everybody. Over and out.